and their functions. The endocrine glands have been discovered by Claude Bernard, who distinguished the products of these ductless glands from the other glandular products by the term internal secretions. So, the term endocrine refers to the system of the ductless glands, especially without ducts. Yesterday, we have discussed about the glands which do have the ducts or exocrine glands. So, in addition to the specialized endocrine glands, many other organs and tissues such as kidneys, liver, and gonads have secondary endocrine functions as they also synthesize and secrete certain other hormones. So, the endocrine system is coordinated by the nervous system, which synthesize certain factors and sends information for the release of hormones from the endocrine tissue. So, therefore the endocrine system is more precisely a neuroendocrine system, and because there is a direct connection between the nerves and endocrine, it's called as the neuroendocrine system. So he is the Claude Bernard, and he is called as the father of endocrinology. Claude Bernard, he coined several terms and very popularly known as the father of endocrinology. Then the hormones are defined as the chemical substance that is produced by the endocrine or ductless glands or specific cells of the body and transported through the circulation to act on its target cells without any duct. Hormones carry messages like neurotransmitters, but unlike neurotransmitters, they act slowly and convey messages to the organs of tissue. Those may be located distantly in the body, means they are secreted somewhere else and act somewhere else. So their action is little bit so, but there are exceptions like oxytocin, etc., which action is very fast in onset. Whereas the hormones actions of the GH growth hormone and many anterior pituitary hormones are very slow in nature. So hormones are involved in mainly in the control of physiological functions, including metabolism, growth, development, and reproduction. And hormones may directly be responsible for changes in an organ. For example, the epinephrine or indirectly to cause production of other hormones, for example, the GnRH or the gonadotrophin releasing hormone, which stimulates the secretion of FSH and LH that is simultaneously. Then the endocrine glands are one of the important glands of the body which secrete the hormones. Hormones are the one they help in the coordinating the activities of our body system and also the animal's body system in a different type of the manner, and this entire system is called as the endocrine system, and they are called as the ductless glands, but they are in the secretory in nature. So the various endocrine glands are listed like this. The number one gland, hypothalamus, then pituitary gland, and pituitary gland is divided into anterior and posterior pituitary, thyroid glands, then parathyroid glands, thymus, pancreas, adrenal gland, testes, ovary, and also the pineal glands. So these are all the example of some important glands. And hypothalamus is also a gland which is going to secrete variety of the releasing factors or releasing hormone. For example, GnRH is a releasing hormone which is acting on the anterior pituitary to stimulate the secretion of FSH and also the luteinizing hormone. And the hormones or the glands are released. For example, the location of the thyroid gland is same in almost all the domestic animals beside the trachea in case of the cattle, sheep, goat, pig, and also The other domestic animals like the cows. Here you can see that the pineal gland is located in center of the brain, then hypothalamus, followed by the pituitary gland, and on side of the trachea, the thyroid and parathyroid glands are embedded. They are located, and pituitary gland is located on the brain stem or brain. Then on the kidney, two adrenal glands are located. Then ovaries are located on the end of the uterus, and in case of males, testes are located. And the corpus luteum of the ovary is going to secrete the progesterone, and the placenta is also going to secrete the progesterone for the maintenance of the pregnancy in case of the bovines. Then equines also have the similar structure of the hormones, and very similar to all the species, the pituitary gland is located in the brain with that of the hypothalamus, and the thyroid glands are located on sides of the trachea, and they release thyroxine T4 and also the T3. And hypothalamus is called as master of all the glands, and it consists of a number of small nuclei with a variety of the functions. And one of the most important functions of the hypothalamus is to link the nervous system to the endocrine system, that's called as the neuroendocrine system. So it is the important functions of the hypothalamus. And apart from the functions of the routine nervous system, the hypothalamus is responsible for certain metabolic processes and other activities of autonomic nervous system. So it secretes certain neurohormones, often called as the releasing hormones, or earlier they were called as the releasing factors. And these in turn stimulate or inhibit the secretion of the pituitary hormones. So the hypothalamus control the body temperature, hunger, fatigue, etc., other than the endocrine functions. Then pituitary gland is located in the base of the brain, and a very small gland. In almost all the animals, it is located in the brain, and it's a very small gland, or it's also called as adenohypophysis and neurohypophysis. It's an endocrine gland, maximum weighing a peanut size and zero point 0.5 grams in the humans, and also the same weight or maximum to the extent of zero point 0.5 to 1 grams in almost all the domestic animals. It is composed of three lobes: anterior, intermediate, and posterior lobes. So the functions of the pituitary glands are the growth by releasing growth hormone, blood pressure, some aspects of the pregnancy and childbirth, including the stimulation of the uterus contractions during the childbirth by releasing the oxytocin hormone. And also, apart from the breast milk, the breast milk, the sex organs functions in both males and females. So the thyroid gland also has to functions through the thyroid stimulating hormone TSH. Then the conversion of blood, food into the energy, metabolism, and also the water osmolality regulation in the body by oxytocin and vasopressin. And water balance is also by control of reabsorption of the water by the kidney, then temperate regulation, temperature, then also regulation by the thermoregulatory and pain centers in the brain. Then, apart from this one, the anterior pituitary hormones are listed as the number one growth hormone, the prolactin, thyroid stimulating hormone, or it's also called as thyrotropin hormone. Then the follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone, which are stimulated by the hypophysis by the release of GnRH, and adrenocorticotropic hormone or corticotrophins, which are going to act on adrenal cortex and also release the corticosteroids. And all of these are the polypeptide in nature, all the hormones. Extracellular receptor located on different target cells. So the hormones have got a very type of very specific receptors, and upon which the action of the hormone, then only the cascade of events starts. The growth hormone and prolactin produce their effect mainly directly, whereas other four hormones secretory activity of the other endocrine glands, especially the thyroid stimulating hormone is going to act on the thyroid gland to release T3 and T4. Whereas the LH is going to act on the ovary, and it is going to help the hormones like the luteinizing hormones, it's so released for the ovulation. And adrenocorticotrophin or corticotrophins are the flight and fight reflex hormones. The pituitary hormones are the hypophysis or hypophysis cerebri. It's a pea-sized, very small endocrine gland that is attached by the stack to underside the cerebrum of the brain, and it's often called as the master endocrine gland, or it is the gland which releases several hormones, hence it's called as the master endocrine gland because of the production of a wide variety of the hormones. And the pituitary gland itself is controlled by hypothalamus by the release of various releasing hormone or trophic hormone. And pituitary gland is composed of two distinct portions arising from different embryological sites, the anterior pituitary and posterior pituitary. And these pars in small relatively avascular zone is there, that's called as the pars intermedia, which is particularly well developed in pituitary glands of some species like horse and cattle. So the main parts of the pituitary glands have got two distinct systems, including the anterior pituitary and also the posterior pituitary systems have been controlled by the hypothalamus. For a, so this table is a important table which divides the hormones into somatotrophins, then glycoprotein type of the hormone, and pro-opiomelanocortin, then depending upon the chemical type. And the secretory cells of growth hormones are somatotrophs, prolactin is lactotrophs. So the somatotrophs are going to secrete growth hormone releasing hormone and growth hormone release inhibitory hormone, and also the lactotrophs prolactin release inhibitory factor or the dopamine are released by the lactotrophs. So main site of the action of growth hormone is on the tissues of the body, on the muscles, and also on the bones. Whereas the prolactin is going to act on the mammary glands and promotes the development of mammary tissue during pregnancy and stimulate breast milk during the postpartum period. Whereas the glycoprotein hormones are thyroid hormone, thyroid stimulating hormone, or it's called as the TSH. It is going to secrete thyrotropes or thyrotrophin releasing hormones. Whereas the thyroid gland is being acted by this gland and the mammary tissue during the pregnancy. Then the follicle stimulating hormone, it is they are called as the gonadotrophic hormones, both are LH and FSH. So they are respectively acting on the ovary and testes. In case of ovary, it causes the growth of the follicle, whereas the LH is going to cause the ovulation and development of corpus luteum, whereas the luteinizing hormone is going to develop the corpus luteum, and the gonadotrophin GnRH is going to cause the follicles and formation of sperm cells in the testes, increasing the libido. Whereas the pro-opiomelanocortins are ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone. So corticotropes are being acted and corticotropin releasing hormone is released from the hypothalamus. Then it's going to act on the adrenal cortex, stimulate the secretion of adrenocortical hormones and integrity of the adrenal cortex. So this is another structure wherein which it is dealt that the glands are the functioning pattern with a very specific type of the G protein coupled receptors. So the ligand gated ion channels are going to act it, and suppose steroid hormones are always going to act on the nucleus. Then there will be a specific receptors, and by the action of the hormone, a very specific type of the proteins are being synthesized. Then this is the hypothalamic system wherein which the growth hormone releasing hormone is secreted from the hypothalamus and also the somatostatin, or they are going to act on the pituitary gland, and the pituitary gland is going to cause the massive release of the growth hormone, which is going to affect on the liver. Then liver releases certain factors known as the insulin like growth factor 1, which is going to act on the muscles, bones, and also some adipose tissues. Whereas the ghrelins are going to be acted on the stomach, they are going to release stomach, and they are going to act on the pituitary so that not to release any further hormones. That is what as the negative feedback mechanism. And intermediate lobe of the pituitary is having different structures like optic chiasmata, hypothalamus, anterior pituitary, then pituitary stack, then pars intermedia, posterior pituitary, pars digitalis, etc. So the anterior pituitary gland is going to cause certain neurosecretory cells, whereas it has also got the blood vessels. Directly, it is going to enter the blood vessels, and immediately it's going to release certain releasing hormones. Then the hormones which are released from the anterior pituitary, like the endocrine cells of the anterior pituitary, are going to produce thyroid stimulating hormone, adrenocorticotropic hormones, which are going to act on the adrenal cortex, whereas the FSH and LH are going to act on the ovary or testes. Whereas the growth hormone is acting on entire body wherever the growth hormone receptors are present. Whereas the prolactin, it has got a very specific type of the receptors on the mammary gland, and it is only produced in case of mammals, especially the mammals which feed their offsprings by producing their own milk, whereas the endorphins are also secreted from the pituitary hormones, the pituitary gland, anterior pituitary, and the pain receptors in the body are being acted by the endorphins and enkephalins, etc. So the posterior pituitary is going to produce two important hormone, antidiuretic hormone and also another hormone called as the oxytocin. So oxytocin is one of the important hormone, especially it is related to the reproductive system. It is going to act on the muscles of excitatory nature. Whereas the vasopressin, or its by name, it's called as antidiuretic hormone, means diuresis is stopped or the normal body condition or status quo is maintained. Then the oxytocin has got two functions. One, Number one, it's going to act on the uterus to contract during the advanced stage of the pregnancy to expel the fetus out, whereas it also helps in the ejections of the milk from the mammary gland. Whereas another posterior pituitary hormone is the vasopressin. So it is also known as anti-diuretic hormone. So it helps in decreasing urine output and also increasing the blood pressure are the two important functions of the vasopressin. So the thyroid gland is located in all the domestic animal like the cat and also the sheep and goat, and many thyroid disorders are being expressed in case of such animals. So thyroid gland is situated in lower part of the neck, extended on both side of the larynx. So it is a brownish red in color. There are two lobes in the thyroid gland, one on each side of the trachea. Whereas these two lobes are connected by a strip of thyroid tissue called as the thymus, which lies in front of the trachea. So this is the thyroid releasing hormone from the hypothalamus. Then it's going to act on the anterior pituitary. Then going to release the thyroid stimulating hormone. Thyroid stimulating hormone in turn acts on the thyroid glands to secrete T3 and T4. Thyroid. So this is the schematic representation of synthesis storage secretion of the thyroid hormones. So the blood, cell and lumen are the three structures involved in the synthesis of T4, T3, T5, etc. So it is when a in case of blood, the synthesis of the thyroid hormone happens in the thyroid gland, for which it requires the precursor and also the iodine uptake from the extracellular fluid. Then it's going to have the fusion with that of the digestive vesicles, and finally it going to produce the thyroglobulins. T3, T4, etc. under the situation of TSH in the brain. This is the thyroid follicle. Of course, it's just like a hollow tissue or hollow cell. So here you can see that the thyroid T3 or T4 are going to act on the nucleus of the cells on which the receptors are present. So usually the iodine deficiency, if it is there, then definitely the animals are going to suffer. It is proven beyond doubt. And also the gland, that is endoplasmic reticular gland, is the one which is going to produce the thyroglobulin secretion. So the thyroglobulin secretion will be looking towards an opportunity for the action of the very specific type of the tissue. So all these are having Golgi complex, mitochondria, and diiodotrianin and triiodothyroid. This T4, T3, T4, TSH, etc. They are all the thyroid related hormones. So iodine is uptaken from all the body cells, and once again they start immediately. The secretion is a big problem, whereas it need to be judiciously used. So synthesis and storage and secretion of the thyroid hormone, just like the thyroglobulin, which are inside the lysosomes, and these are being acted by certain triglycerides are going to couple to form triglyceride with that of the another chemical, and ultimately the thyroglobulins are going to produce, and the lysins are going to cause the luteolysis, proteolysis, and the secretion of huge quantity of T3 and TSH, and it will be a pulsatile release also. So mechanism of action of the any hormone, they should contain their respective receptors. For example, the thyroid hormone receptor will always be present on the nucleus of the cell, and it will act through a very specific type of the receptors which are present on the very small structures like the cells or inside the cell organelles. Then the thyroid gland is another important gland which is very much required for the metabolism. Then also the right lobe and left lobes are very well defined. Then isthmus, then the trachea will be very present. So whenever we are taking some food or water, many times this the structure which is called as the epiglottis is going to cover the windpipe, because the esophagus is in the upper side and dorsal side it is the muscles. Thyroid gland just the is one of the largest and endocrine glands and consists of two connected folds. Then the thyroid gland is a butterfly shaped organ, and the parathyroid glands are embedded in this thing, and the thyroid gland is going to secrete T4 or a minimal quanta of the T3. T3 is more potent than that of the T4. What is the function of the thyroid gland is to direct the cells to produce the proteins, and also controls how sensitive the body is to the other hormones. And these hormones regulate the growth and rate of functions of many other systems. So a lot of the other things are there, and the parathyroid glands are very closely located to that of the thyroid glands, and there will be enlargement of the parathyroid gland whenever there is a huge requirement of parathyroid. The parathyroid, there are four parathyroid glands, and they are each about the size of a grain. And the parathyroids are also located on either side of the trachea, and also they are the glands which are having the secreting the parathyroid hormone or parathyroid hormone, a powerful influence on the cells of the bones by causing them to release their calcium into the bloodstream. Then there are a lot of parathyroid diseases are there, and whenever the parathyroid dysfunction is there, then calcium will not be released into the blood situation, even though it is present in the body. So most common disease of the parathyroid gland is the hyperthyroidism, which is characterized by excess parathyroid hormones. Then parathyroid hormones are always located in all glands, and apart from this one, the calcitonin is a hormone produced by the paracellular C cells of the thyroid gland, and it reduces the blood calcium ion concentration. So calcitonin is very much required for the calcium homeostasis in the body. Whereas, see, the calcium secretion or the parathyroid glands are going to be release the parathyroid hormone or parathyroid hormone, which are going to act on calcium excretion from the kidney. Then they are going to retain transcellular calcium transport cells and paracellular calcium transport. So parathyroid gland is one of the gland which is responsible for the secretion of parathormone. So low concentration of calcium in the blood is caused by the release of low quantity of the parathyroid hormone, the decrease in the loss of the calcium in the urine, and also on the bones, efflux of calcium from bones will be there, then enhanced absorption of the calcium from the intestine if there is a good type of the release of parathyroid hormone. So this is going to act through the cyclic AMP, calcium, inositol triphosphate, diacetyl glycerol mechanism. And the extracellular domain and intracellular domain is present for the parathyroid hormone, and here the variety of the mechanism of action is there, like activation of the diacylglycerol, the activation of phosphokinase C, then mobilization of intracellular calcium. So thymus is one of the important gland which is present on the side of the trachea, and also the thymus is specialized organ of the immune system, and it's composed of two identical lobes, and the thymus is the largest and most active during neonatal and pre-adolescent period. So thymus produces and secretes thymosin. So what's the use of the thymus is it is helping in the body to protect itself against autoimmune disorders when immune system is suppressed. The thymus plays a important role in hypolymphatic system of the body and endocrine system. So they protects the body from certain threats, including virus and also certain infections. So this is the adrenal gland. Then the adrenal gland to contain adrenal cortex and adrenal medulla, and it's present on upper side of the kidney, where with left and right side. And adrenal glands are always located on upside the kidney, and have got the adrenal cortex and adrenal medulla. Adrenal medulla is going to secrete the epinephrine, whereas the adrenal cortex is going to secrete the corticosteroids. So they are also known as suprarenal gland because they are going to be located above the kidneys, and they are embedded in the kidney fat, and they have got two triangular shaped organs that measure about 1.5 inches in height and 3 inches in case of the length. So the adrenal gland functions are in such a way that they have got very different functions, and they are going to release the hormones by adrenal cortex which are necessary for the life, and those secreted by the adrenal medulla are not. Then this is the system how the adrenal glands do always act on different body parts, and these are the one which are going to act on different systems, especially different levels, the fat mobilization, and also the one of the homeostasis mechanism is being maintained. Then the blood pressure will be increased, then vascular smooth muscle contractions will happen, and the function of the pancreas is another gland. It is going to it's a exocrine and endocrine glands. So it is also going to secrete several enzymes, etc. And apart from this one, the pancreas is going to secrete the insulin. Insulin, it is one of the important gland which is very much required for the homeostasis of the glucose. So, insulin diabetes, dependent diabetes, is caused by the deficiency of the glands to secrete the insulin, or else the receptors are become tolerant. Functions of the pancreas. So, its function is to maintain the blood glucose, and diabetes is one of the disease which is related to the functions of the pancreas. Here you can see that the acinar cells and beta cells are there. Pancreatic acinar cells, whereas the pancreatic beta cells are going to secrete the insulin. Whereas this is the Langerhans islands, and testes are the one, especially in case of males, which secrete testosterone, and they have got the twin oval shaped structures. So they are going to increase the secretion of the thing, whereas the ovaries are the one which are going to release the estrogen, and also the corpus luteum is the one which secrete the progesterone hormone. Ovaries are also the reproductive glands to sex hormones, progesterone and estrogen. And the ovaries are going to control the reproductive performance of the gland. Whereas the pineal gland, smallest gland of the body, grayish red gland situated in the roof of the brain. So this is covered under corpus callosum, and this gland is about located like this, and this gland is important for several hormones including the melatonin and serotonin. So the functions are pineal gland appear to function as the biological clock. It influences the release of gonadotrophic hormones from anterior pituitary cortex. Whereas the oxytocin is a hormone released from posterior pituitary, which is going to act on the specific oxytocin receptors which are present on either the uterus or also the myoepithelial cells. So it has got very short half-life, and it is secreted after suckling reflex from the calf. So this is released whenever there is a suckling, stretch of the cervix, strength of the vagina, stretch of the vagina, higher centers, and the stimulation of the posterior pituitary. Oxytocin is released into the blood, which increase the best myoepithelial cells and let down of the milk, and it also contacts the uterus, and the maternal behavior will be very much influenced by the hormone oxytocin. Then the oxytocin is going to act on different body cells by the calcium calgodylin complex, and once again it's going to act on the smooth muscles of alveoli and also on the uterus. So the median oxytocin plasma concentration time is very less. It's about maximum retention time is within uh, 2 to 3 hours. Almost it is reached to the base or plateau. The maximum duration is just 7 minutes. Steroid hormones are from the history, Addison's disease, and the cortex or medulla, then Cushing syndrome, and aldosterone release. All these are the functions. So the biosynthesis is ACTH is released from the parathyroid gland and directly acting on the different type of the body systems, and ultimately it's going to make the glands to release the circulating potassium experts, permissive effects, and the normal blood glucose will be maintained. And the steroid biosynthesis is counted, whereas the cholecalciferol or pregnenolone are both same, whereas the progesterones are, are letting, not allowing the human beings to inside the United States of America where the drug is marketed. So the progesterone is converted to aldosterone, and hydroxyprogesterone is converted to cortisol and androgens, and all these are destroyed very quick path, that is about 5 to maximum 10 minutes. Here you can see that a table with group hormones. Glucocorticoids are glucocorticosterone and cortisol, whereas the daily dose required is 30. It is very less 5 milligram, and the aldosterone is one of the diuretic hormone, antidiuretic hormone. Regulation of synthesis, if the concentration in the periphery, if it is more, then it sends a signal to the brain of the particular person. Glucocorticoids always they are going to act on the nucleus of the cells, and they are going to synthesize the protein which is required by them. Whereas most of the steroids are from the phospholipids, that is the arachidonic acid, then they are going to be converted from the lipoxygenase pathway and cyclooxygenase pathways are there. So these ratio of these need to be maintained very cautiously for the better health. And replacement therapy is, suppose the gland is destroyed and at the time the natural hormones are being administered to the person by after finding which type of the hormones is very much required. Of course, there are a lot of trial and error methods, and some of them are good methods are also existing. That's about the endocrine glands, hormones, and their functions. Thanks a lot.